Hey guys, it's Gwen. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. I have another simple wreath for fall that I wanted to share. These items are mostly things that I took from my own stash, and this is just going to be a really quick tutorial. I found this straw wreath from my craft stash. This was thrifted years ago. Never quite got around to using it, so I'm going to go ahead and use it for this wreath. I'm just going to remove the plastic casing that was around it, since I do want the straw part of this to be exposed. However, just keep in mind that it is very messy since the straw tends to shed. I'm going to go ahead and show you all of the assorted flowers that I'm going to be using. These again are from my stash. These are just from my bins that I have with all of my fall florals, and I'm just going to go ahead and reuse all these items. None of these were new. I just went through what I already owned and just decided on the color scheme that I wanted to use. So keep in mind that when you are trying to create wreaths or any type of floral display or garlands or anything like that, try to see what you have in your stash before going out and buying new florals, because you'll be surprised that year after year you might have accumulated a lot of florals that you can repurpose, like I'm doing here. So the first thing I'm using are these heather sprays or florals. They're from the Dollar Tree, and the majority of these items are from the Dollar Tree. Now this is just like a light green color, and this is going to be the base of my wreath. Now, as you can see here, I'm simply bending the stems. On these ones, I'm just going to try and keep them all attached so that it's for easier attaching to the straw base. So I'm essentially going to be using some zip ties, and by keeping everything attached on its original stem or bouquet, you're going to have longer pieces that will be easier to zip tie to the actual straw wreath. Now with the other filler pieces, I'm going to have to cut them off from the stems just so that it's easy to disperse them and scatter them in areas that I need them to fill. So not everything is going to be kept on its original bouquet. I'm going to go ahead and pick and choose the pieces that I'm going to be using, and if I need to only use a few picks or stems from each bouquet, then I'm going to go ahead and cut those pieces off, again just so I can have an easier time with spreading them throughout this arrangement wherever I need it to be. So as you can see here, I'm going to cut some of these longer pieces. I'm not exactly sure the name of those particular flowers, but they make a great backdrop, especially when you're trying to create height to your wreath or to any arrangement. I like to flank the sides using those types of flowers or florals just because they do extend the height of the wreath, giving it, you know, like that extra, it just makes it more substantial looking, in my opinion. And then those sort of rose looking florals right there in the burgundy and blush pink and mauve pink colors, those were a bouquet that came from Michael's, and I've had those for over 5 years. I kid you not. I've been using them just as is, the way that they came, but I went ahead and just removed them from the bouquet so that I can use them as individual stems. And here I'm just getting an idea, a general idea of how I want to arrange my pieces. And I like to do this before I actually start attaching all of the pieces down, to make sure that I have all the florals arranged in the fashion that I want them to lay. I'm also going to be using these really pretty blue hydrangeas. Again, these are from the Dollar Tree, and I really love the blue color in these hydrangeas. And I think they're just a nice change in the fall florals, you know, different than your typical orange and yellows and reds. I think the blue breaks up all of that monotony and really adds some interest and contrast to the look of this wreath. When I was laying these blue hydrangeas in between all of the florals, I Really like the contrast and the way it coordinated well with the burgundies and the mauve pinks. I thought that it was a nice contrast, and it really gives this wreath like a moody tone. Now, I'm not one really to decorate in moody colors per se. I do like brighter, lighter colors, neutral colors, but once in a while I do get into my moods where I like darker tones. And this is one of those exceptions where I think like the combination of these colors work. And I'm actually making this for my daughter. So I think this is something that would fit well into her aesthetic. And again, it's just different than just using the typical fall colors like oranges and yellows and things like that. Although I typically decorate with the traditional fall colors or even just use traditional fall colors in my DIYs, I really love green. That's like my one of my favorite colors. But this right here, this combination of colors is really pretty, and it's different, but it's really pretty in my opinion. And I think there's something elegant looking about it. So I'm excited to see how it all comes out in the end. I'm just going to go ahead and start attaching all the pieces using these zip ties. And that's sort of the reason why I like to keep those base florals that I started with all attached on the original stems so that it's easier to use a zip tie and keep everything contained. Now with all the other smaller pieces, I went ahead and just stuck them in between the straw and any gaps that I can. And if I needed to, I added some extra hot glue just to secure those smaller pieces into place. Now the ones that don't have a longer stem, I did use hot glue just for ease of attaching them, which makes it a lot easier when you are working with smaller pieces, especially when they don't have a stem and they're just like the actual buds of the florals or the actual like, you know, floral pieces without any stems on it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and keep arranging everything until everything looks good in my eyes. I did end up removing the feathers that you see, the orange feathers that are on either side. Those are like the, I can't recall, what are they, like pheasant feathers or something. I When I took a step back and I looked at the overall look of this wreath, I figured those feathers didn't really fit the aesthetic of this wreath. And I guess with the bright orange that's on the feather, it kind of threw off the whole aesthetic. So rather than using those like right there, I'm just going to remove them. I'm just going to keep with the burgundies, the mauve, pink, peachy color, whatever you want to call those, little sprigs of white flowers here and there, and then also the blue hydrangeas. I think those work better together in my opinion. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue attaching all my pieces, filling in any spots that need something there. Those hydrangeas were a perfect filler since they occupied a little bit more space, and then I did add a little bit more of those heather sprays here and there, a little bit of the white flowers, and that was pretty much all there was to it with this wreath. The last finishing touch that I will be doing is to create a ribbon or a bow just to add to the center of the top, and you will see that here shortly. So the next step here is to create a bow. I'm using this burlap ribbon with some pearl beaded trim around it. This I picked up from, I believe it was Hobby Lobby over a year or so ago. This isn't a wired ribbon, so it's a little bit harder to manipulate because whenever you go to fix the bow, it doesn't stay in that position because it isn't wired. So that's the only downside to this ribbon. However, I do really like the look of it. It's nice and wide, and it has that little detail with the pearl, which I think really goes nicely with the look of this wreath. So I'm just just doing a simple shoestring style bow where you just cross the tails over each other, creating loops, and then using a jute twine to cinch it down the center and then attach it to the back of this wreath. And I did double reinforce it by adding an additional piece of twine just to make sure that it was held down into place. I did add some hot glue to the back just to keep it from moving. I'm also using an additional ribbon from Dollar Tree. This is the crochet ribbon, and just created a simple shoestring bow and hot glued that down over the center. This is the final look of this beautiful wreath. This was a super fun and easy project to do using things I already had in my stash. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and got some inspiration. If you enjoyed and you like this type of content, please consider subscribing. Hit that like button and I will catch you in my next video. Thanks for watching.